This is part 7 and the last part of World's Scariest Prisons. Attica. The grainy photographs are haunting. Disheveled men standing at gunpoint, hands on their heads. They have formed a wobbly line among trash, broken furniture, and heaps of ashes and dirt. This is the scene from the aftermath of the Attica prison riot. The riot was a 4-day uprising that occurred in 1971 in which the inmates were brutally overpowered in what was later called the bloodiest one-day encounter between the Americans since the Civil War. Behind the bars, also known as Attica Correctional Facility, located in Attica, New York, operational 1931 to present, number of prisoners 2,150 inmates. Notable inmates: H. Rat Brown, leader of the Black Panther Party; Mark David Chapman killed John Lennon; Willie Sutton, bank robber. Rising tensions. Attica is a huge maximum security prison in upstate New York. At the time of the riot, tensions were rising among the inmates. The prison was overcrowded at double its intended capacity. Mail was routinely opened and destroyed by jailers. Prisoners complained of food that was infested with cockroaches. But everything came to a head when George Jackson, a prominent African-American activist, was killed during an escape attempt from San Quentin Prison in California. 1,300 inmates rose up and took over Attica, holding hostage 40 guards. Negotiation. They issued a list of demands to New York Governor Nelson Rockefeller that included better living conditions and more opportunities to pursue education. Over the course of 4 tense days, state officials negotiated with the inmates. In addition to their other requests, the prisoners wanted to be pardoned for their actions during the riot. The governor refused this request, and so negotiations failed. 1,000 National Guard soldiers and police stormed the building, dropped tear gas canisters, and firing guns. When it was over, 10 guards and 29 prisoners were dead. Rise up. But reports claim that even after the riot was over, guards continued to punish prisoners. This spurred a wave of prison rebellions across the country. Later, some inmates and their families won a lawsuit against the state of New York for civil rights violations, and the governor and prison officials were criticized for how they handled the situation. The Attica prison riot is often mentioned in prisoners' rights discussions and as a caution against mistreatment of the incarcerated. Education in prison. You can't do a whole lot while you're in prison, but often one thing you can do is go to school. Throughout most of history, providing prisoners with an education while they were incarcerated would have been unthinkable. It was believed that inmates were there to serve out their punishment, not to learn lessons. But today, most inmates in U.S. prisons have not graduated from high school. Studies show that people who take classes in prison are 46% less likely to commit a crime again after they get out of prison than those who do not take classes. Prisoners taking classes are also less violent while they are in prison. In many prisons, inmates can take classes online or by mail. Some states, such as New York, offer live high school or college classes right in the prison, taught by certified teachers or professors. Students do homework, write papers, and take tests just as they would in a non-prison classroom. Sing Sing. Sing Sing, the famous maximum security prison in New York State, has been opened continuously since its construction in 1828. Originally built from stone, it has been remade in concrete and metal, but Sing Sing's tough reputation remains. Bank robber Willie Sutton spent time there, as have countless other convicted felons. Thomas Edison introduced the electric chair at Sing Sing in 1901, and since then, 614 convicted felons have died in Old Sparky. It was also at Sing Sing that in 1899, Martha M. Place became the first woman to be executed by electric chair. Behind the bars, also known as Sing Sing Correctional Facility, located in Ossing, New York, operational 1828 to present, number of prisoners about 1,700 prisoners at a time. Notable inmates: Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, alleged spies; Lucky Lucano mobster Willie Sutton bank robber. Punishment. In 1953, Ethel and Julius Rosenberg were sent to the electric chair, having been convicted of spying for the Soviet Union. Life in prison. Through the years, Sing Sing has evolved. Now inmates can learn a master's degree from the New York Theological Seminary through an educational program that involves studying almost full-time for 1 year. At the end of the program, inmates wear academic robes and receive their diplomas like any other graduate. That's really cool. Close the prison. Perched on the banks of the Hudson River, Sing Sing is surrounded by the pleasant upper-middle-class homes of Osing, a community that is just a short train ride from New York City. So many New York criminals were sent to Sing Sing that the phrase "up the river" has come to mean in prison. Recently, residents in Osing have asked the state to close this prison, which sits right in the middle of their town. Life in a Supermax. The AdMax Florence prison in Colorado is also a maximum security prison, one of the most tightly controlled in the country, a supermax. The layout of the prison is intended to be disorienting so that inmates can't plan escapes. Prisoners are allowed no contact with one another for the first 3 years of their incarceration. The most dangerous criminals live in cells that measure only 8 feet by 10 feet, have restraints on the beds, a tiny window, and a soundproof door. An attached cell for exercise looks like a cage. Escape from AdMax Florence is impossible. The compound's walls are guarded with 12-foot-high fences of razor wire, studded with motion detectors, cameras, pressure pads, remotely controlled steel doors, attack dogs, and lasers that will set off alarms if tripped. I bet you there's going to be someone that figures out how to do it.